one red, pour out the Jameson for ancestors to swig.
You rescue me yet again. You put me first everywhere. You make me feel better than the multitudes. You rescue me yet again. You put me first everywhere. You make
Thank you for tuning to the Black Fathers Initiative of Cleveland. Really appreciate the love, guys. Make sure you like, subscribe. You know what to do. So today we have another interview that I'm going to react to. Of course, you know we do here all black everything, black love, black relationships, black money, black community, black solutions. So today going to be going over an interview from the Breakfast Club about 3 days ago with this young man here. Now, this young man's name is Jason Wilson, and he's a published author, as well as I believe what really blew him up was his viral moment with was a young kid that well, let's see if we can get it up. But it was a young kid in his, I think he has a martial arts class or something like that, and the kid was crying. And he actually was talking to the kid and helping the kid get his emotion out, things of that nature. It was a viral moment. Actually, I think this is it. And this was 6 years ago. But this is what it was.
Zeus! Ah! 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 Pull in, punch all the way through. When you feel the pain, go all the way through. That could be a barrier in life or anything. Punch hard. Zeus! Ah! Zeus! Ah! You gotta punch it hard enough. Punch through it. You feel pain?
Yes, sir.
Shake that off. Let's go. Zeus! Ah! Zeus! Ah! Zeus! Ah! Zeus! That's what this is about. Good. Let's get to that. Why are you crying? That's what this is about, son. It's okay to cry. We cry as men. Why are you crying, though, son?
And honestly, I think this is great. I don't think I could show it because, you know, they'll give me a copyright strike. But it's great right now because, like he said, the young man is crying and he's letting this young man get his emotions out, not saying, man, you know, men don't cry. You know, martial artists don't cry. Ninjas don't cry. You know, no. He was like, yo, why are you crying? What's going on? So that right there, you know, is awesome.
Tell me, why are you crying? It's hard to test for a reason, but why are you crying? Go ahead, son. Because what?
Because it is hard to punch through with my left hand.
Okay, good. But you did it, though. You punched through with your left hand. You know in life there's going to be things harder for you to do than other things?
Yes, sir.
And you know those things that may appear to be hard to do, you're going to have to do as a man, regardless. And it's going to take tears. It's going to take the blood of Yeshua, Jesus, and your sweat to break through it. You understand?
Yes, sir.
So I don't mind you crying. I cry a lot too. You know what I'm saying? All right. So I want you to you're pulling your blow. I don't know if you're facing fear and you're feeling that you may not make it. And we all face that from time to time. And when as soon as we hit resistance, we want to stop, right? Because it's hurting. We feel that pain. We're like, I'm not going through this no more, right?
Yes, sir.
We have to go on through this men. It's going to be very painful. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Being a black man in this country, you're going to need mental fortitude. You're going to have to be strong here more so than here. You understand?
Yes, sir.
You can do it. You just got to put your mind to it. And it's good to cry so you can work through that emotion. So when it arises again, you can push it to the side and do what you do. You understand?
Yes, sir.
All right, good. Let's see what you got.
All right, so that right there was him pretty much, like I said, he's a martial artist. And like, you know, like he was saying, he had the young man started crying because he couldn't, you know, punch through the wood, even though he eventually punched through the wood. It was a way of letting the young man express himself as well as letting him know that, hey, man, you can cry. But what I really, really liked about it is the way that he informed the young man that, you know, life is going to have barriers, trials and tribulations, and you can't just stop. You know what I'm saying? Because you're a man. You have to focus. You have to get through it. If you have to cry, that's fine. If you need to release some emotions, that's okay. You know what I'm saying? But as a man, you have to go through life and you have to be a man. In order to be successful, you can't run away from barriers. You have to break shit down. That's just how we do. So that was dope. You can check it out on YouTube. I'll put the link in the bio so you guys can check it out. But let's get to the interview on the Breakfast Club.
Wake that ass up.
In the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Charlemagne the God. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Man, one of the most necessary black men walking the face of the earth, man.
The brother Jason Wilson. Welcome, brother.
Shalom, brother. How you doing, man?
How you feeling?
Finally good to see you. You weren't here last time.
I wasn't here last time.
Yes,
No,
sir.
not at all.
Oh, you wasn't?
No, I wasn't here last time.
Wow.
Yeah, I was on the road.
Wow.
Yes, sir.
A pleasure to meet you, brother.
Pleasure meeting you too as well, good brother. Yes, sir.
For people that don't know who you are, you want to just break down quickly what you do, who you are, and some of your history?
Well, yeah, my name is Jason Wilson. I'm an author of two best-selling books, Cry Like a Man, Fighting for Freedom from Emotional Incarceration, and my second book is Battle Cry, Waging and Winning the War Within. I'm also the founder and CEO of a nonprofit called The Union, based in Detroit, which under its umbrella is the Cave of Adullam Transformational Training Academy, where we help boys navigate through their emotions without succumbing to them in a world that's full of pressure.
You know, we didn't talk about this a lot last time. We did, but not really. People don't know your background. If they've read your books, they know your background. But how you evolved as a human and got to the Jason Wilson we know. Like, you was in the street.
Yeah. I never was a thug, but I hung around those who were in gangs in my community. You know, again, I didn't have a father. So, and my brothers, two of them were murdered. Actually, one at that time when I was younger, then my other brother moved to Texas. So I needed the camaraderie, and so I hung around everyone who was in the gangs, but I wasn't like actively in it. However, I risked my life many times trying to fit this mold of what it is to be a thug. And then after losing a lot of friends to violence, and then more importantly, answering my call to the Most High, that's when my life completely changed into the man that I am today.
Do you remember the turning point? Like, do you remember that light bulb moment?
Yeah, a young kid asked me that in New Jersey yesterday, in Orange, New Jersey, like what it took for you to change. And it took me almost dying twice, and then those incidents being connected to prophetic, words. So basically, one time I was driving a good friend of mine's truck. At the time, he was the #1 draft pick in the NBA. And he told me, his mother told him not to drive the truck, but he allowed me to drive it to go to the studio because she said someone had to get in an accident. That someone was me.
Wow.
So when I was driving back from the studio, brothers, a car stalled right in front of me.
Somebody had to get in an accident.
And by the time I got up on it, I was driving a 4Runner truck, and at the time they were top heavy. So when I went to swerve, the truck flipped over 2 times. Sunroof open, windows down, sounds blasting, and I survived. But what struck me
You by yourself?
Yes. So when he came into the emergency room screaming and crying like, dog, you gotta listen. I'm like, dude, I'm fine. They just got me on this board just in case I have any damaged vertebrae. He says, no, my mother told me this was gonna happen and you gotta answer your call. But even then, I still didn't listen. So fast forward another maybe 4 years, I'm working for Coca-Cola, and I'm talking to Nicole, who is my wife now, and I'm upset, brother, because I'm working 12-hour days. I'm gifted in music and helping, mentoring young boys, but yet I'm in this plant all day. And so we're on the phone, and I said, you know what? God ain't real, so don't tell me about praying or any of that stuff, because if he was real, why I'm in here wasting my life away? I can't even spend time with my daughter. I hang the phone up. 10 minutes later, I go, like every night, to unload the pallet truck. For the first time, the driver didn't lock the brakes on the semi. I hit the back of the truck with my high-low, couldn't get on at first. Back up, I'm angry because I couldn't get on. Then I hit it again, and I'm able to get on. But this time, because the brakes weren't chalked or locked, the bed of the truck pushed away from me, but I was leaving the dock. High-low falls, 2 herniated discs. I fall off the high-low. The back of the truck was about to roll back on me, but the forks of the high-low dropped down to stop the truck. And then my friend gets inside the high-low to hit the brakes on that so it wouldn't crush me. At that point, I looked up to the sky and I said, Most High, I said, I never go against you again.
Wow.
And at that point, it was a 180. I went from listening to hip hop that was profane, whatever, basically the soundtrack for how I was desiring to live, to Fred Hammond the very next day. You can ask my wife. And so that was the turning point. And then, the blessings and the miracles I can't deny. Literally, we're trying to buy a house. We were getting married. The week before we had to close, the trucking company wanted to settle with me. And that's how we had the money to close on the house.
Oh, wow.
And ever since then, brothers, I haven't looked back. Truthfully, I'm a guy that just like keeping my hands to the plow. This is a blessing that I have an opportunity to share what has happened in my life so it can inspire others. But I never desired any of the attention. I rather just the lights cut off and I do what I need to do. But then a friend of mine in jiu-jitsu said, if you're not in the light, brother, how are we going to see? And so that convicted me, man. And I just, walked my calling through obedience.
And what got you into martial arts?
Always desired, my father was in the same city, but wasn't actively in my life. So I desired to have that man, teach me not only how to fight. Every boy wants to learn how to defend himself. But it was, when you see the old martial art movies, you see the sensei walking along with them, helping them throughout life. And I yearned for that. And I didn't have it. Even when I first started martial arts in my backyard, I didn't have a teacher.
All right, so I just wanted to stop that there because, once again, this is something that I speak about when it comes to, single mothers raising young men. I will always tell them that I would definitely suggest getting them into some type of martial arts, boxing, anything that has to do with some male camaraderie, where they have a male that they can, talk to or speak to, or, get some guidance from. Because, it's hard raising young black boys out here as a single mom. Know that for a fact. So, to try to, offset the fact that there is no man in the home to help with that discipline or help get that young man structured, I would say the next best thing would be to get him into martial arts or some type of, boxing, physical type of class where he has a male, coach or something where, like I stated, they can get some type of discipline and structure in their life. So, dope. Let's keep it going.
I kind of felt like David in the scriptures where the Most High is testified as the one who trained him for war. But then after that moment, I started seeking going into martial arts schools. And the challenge of facing your fears, facing your anxieties, your insecurities. In sports, you can kind of hide from it. In martial arts, when a punch coming at you, a kick, an elbow, or someone's trying to choke you or take your back like in jiu-jitsu, you got to be able to stay calm enough to be able to counter all of that. And so that journey just never stopped. Even now as a man, I still have what we call a moment on the mat. We even have fathers who would want to train in the cave, and they'll break down crying because a certain technique or training take them back to a moment in their childhood where it's painful.
So with all the martial arts, and martial arts is heavy training, right? You still were with the streets, or were you doing martial arts and then hanging with the street buddies?
Well,
because usually martial arts keep you in a place where you don't even want to do that.
Well, when you're with the wrong people, you can have the wrong teacher as well, But no, when you're trying to fit in, brother, I was trying to be a clone, trying to fit in. But I had a good heart, man. I never could fit the suit of a thug, and especially after I got the revelation of what a thug is, it's an acronym I created called a traumatized human unable to grieve. And so when I look at all of my brothers who really walked that walk, that's what they were, because after you see one person get killed, then another person get killed, and this happens to you, and this happens, your heart starts to become hardened. Not because you desire that, it's because you need to do that just to survive the community you're in. And so, no, I didn't use martial arts to hurt anyone or, to rob people, but I know guys who have. And so I look at martial arts not as just self-defense, but more so self-control. I tell my boys, you can't defend what hasn't been disciplined. And apply that principle in school and life, honoring your mother and your father, and you'll find yourself on the right path.
It's interesting, right? Because when I hear you tell your story, or I think about stories of evolution, like, Malcolm X. So I think about anything that we've even been through. It feels like this generation of kids aren't getting the opportunity to make the same mistakes that we did.
Man, you hit it right on the head. Big shout out to Orange, New Jersey. We was just there yesterday. Superintendent Abdul Salim Hassan, he was reading my book, Battle Cry. This brother is so active in the community, man. He has father groups, book studies. And so Brandon Frame of The Black Man Can, I want to give him props. He's the one put the screening together for the documentary. And Superintendent Hassan had my book. And they were like, yo, I can get the brother here. So we toured 3 schools. One of the main things, the theme we were talking about is that the boys didn't feel like they had enough grace to make a mistake.
That's right.
And so when a boy fears failure, he tries to play it safe. And as we know, the safe route for me, my ultimatum, if I couldn't have made it in music, because I also was a music producer, I was going to sell drugs with my brother. Okay, because that was the quick way out. I can get money. He's a millionaire established in the street, so I can make it happen. But to do things that's hard, like start a nonprofit, serve the community, be able to bless all my other friends with employment. My brother Ron Lee Jr. has been with me my 22 years. And so it was the boys. One young man I never forgot, he started showing his emotions because it's hard to get boys to express themselves in a culture that tells us that crying is weak for men. And I said, where's your father? And that's when everything started pouring out of him. And I always get to my knees to make sure they know I'm all in for what you're talking about, and I welcome your tears. And it's just like, man, it was trial and error, learning, and he's not there. And the next thing you know, the other boys start opening up. And so in the cave, what we do, the first thing you learn when you come to the cave of Adullam is how to fall. So we teach you judo, but the life principle is, if you know how to fall correctly, you can get back up no matter how hard someone throws you. In life, our boys fear failure so much that they clinch on the things that appear to be safe. And so they're not taking the chances needed to become someone that they really desire in their hearts. And so we give them the freedom to fail. We say the mistakes are our best teacher. The worst mistake is the one you didn't learn from.
But like what he said, it's difficult because, right, we've all did things that we got in trouble for. But now if you look back at it, those things could have cost us our life. And not just life as far as dying, but put us in jail, gave us records, put us things where we couldn't possibly go. And it's difficult now. And I was even thinking about this earlier when we was talking about the cops wearing the cameras. We've all been pulled over. I know I have. I'm sure you have. Where we pulled over and a cop gave us leniency. They can't do that now. They can't pull you over and say, you know what, just get your ass home. Your mom's going to get your ass home. I don't know what you was about to do. They can't do that now because that camera's on them. So almost they have to arrest you. And if they have to give you a warrant. So, or they have to, put you in jail. So what do we do now? Because those kids have the right to be scared because they know that, the stupid things that I did, and we talk about money, you had a little leniency. There is none of that anymore.
Well, I would, I agree to disagree because I would say that a cop can do whatever he wants to do. Camera or no camera, okay, period. Just like any man, listen, if a cop wants to give you if the cop wants to show you leniency, he can show you leniency because I don't even think they watch every camera every day. What they probably do is the cameras are on you just in case you do some fuck shit and now we got to review the cameras. But on a regular traffic stop, and you let somebody go, I don't see them reviewing the cameras on that. So I do think that there is still, what I'm saying is that there's still room for leeway when it comes to police because police can do what they want to do. So if they want to let you go, they can let you go. Now, unfortunately, if you're black, Hispanic, if you're anything other than white, 9 out of 10, you probably won't get let go. But they can always let you go. I've been in situations where my license was suspended, and I believe the law at the time was if your license was suspended, you had to go to jail. Like they locked your ass up. By the Most High's grace, the cop just gave me a driving under suspension ticket, which I'd never seen before, but it was new. Gave me a ticket and was like, you gotta go to court and let me go, even though my license was suspended. So once again, cops can do what they want to do, as well as we're not even gonna go into the cops because I'm still pissed off about Tyree Nichols. So
I work with police officers again. I tell the young ones that I mentor that you're stuck in fight or flight. As soon as you punch that clock, you're in fight or flight. And many of them have given young boys leniency. Just recently, one of the cave parents called me. She lost control of her emotions because she didn't have her driver's license and insurance. One of my students, her son, was like, "Mom, calm down. You can make this situation escalate. Just articulate what you're feeling, explain to the officer what happens." And what was cool was a white police officer. And he says, "Look, ma'am, calm down. Everything will be okay. Just go home, and I know everything is good." And he gave her leniency. Now, to your point about our boys being scared for being pulled over, of course, watching all the traumatic events that we see on social media, what happens to black men when we get pulled over, that's what our training is for. I want them to be able to make those mistakes in a safe space where it doesn't cost them as much as it would out there on the streets.
Right.
So when you practice this, or same thing with being emotionally stable or emotionally intelligent, when you practice exuding more emotions than being a protective provider, and pretty much that's it, or an aggressor if something is threatening your family, when you start practicing being a nurturer or expressing sadness. How many young men I know personally are in the grave because they weren't allowed to feel fear? I say, you don't want to succumb to it, but you can feel it. And then when you feel it, it can keep you from making the wrong decisions. And I had one young man who wanted to join the cave when I was in Detroit public schools, and he knew he shouldn't have went to this party, brother. And he went anyway. And the guys were jealous of him, and they shot and killed him. And to see his father, the entire funeral, stand next to the casket, he wouldn't leave his son's casket. And it broke my heart because, I'm not going to say his name, but he was a beautiful young boy. He actually told me when a handicapped kid was getting bullied in the bathroom. And I went in and stopped it, but he wasn't praised for being kind. He wasn't praised for being compassionate. Our boys are praised for being killers, thugs. One kid wouldn't claim that he was brilliant. He says, "I'm just smart." He said, I said, "Why you won't say you're brilliant?" "Because that just seems like it's another level." I said, "You don't think you can attain that?" He couldn't say anything. And what was interesting, brother, when I promised, I said, anyone in here can get their grade point up to a 3.0, I give you $100. And the principal of this one school says, we're going to do it. Do you know the brothers shot their hands up? I said, because it's not that you can't do the work, it's the distractions that's keeping you from performing. So when you allow a boy to really express what he's feeling, the distractions, the father wound, the mother wound, not having adequate things at home to even, I had kids that had to sleep on the front porch, brother, because of the violence in their home. One kid, grades dropped because his clothes wasn't clean. Props to Principal Reggie Williams at the time. He bought a washer and dryer, and his grade point average went right back up. And so we have to be comprehensive in our approach in raising black boys. And, again, as I say, elders in this community, I speak for myself. I need to repent for even some of the music I produced. I'm pretty sure that my music was theme music for people who robbed and beat people or created a misogynistic mindset. And so I repent for all that I've caused in my own community. I get reached out to by a lot of rappers, and I love how they transform their lives into businessmen.
You see, Kevin Gates was up here speaking about your book.
That brother's a beautiful brother, and I would love to connect with him even more. But at the end of the day, if we don't denounce that behavior, cool. Even though we become businessmen and like a nonprofit, my wife and I run a beautiful nonprofit, but that wasn't always the case, because if not, our boys would say, okay, cool, I can do this, and then I'll be like Mr. Wilson later. But to your point, they have leniency, they just don't have the grace that we have. We don't have the neighbors anymore that say, hey, Charlamagne, I see what you're doing. You got to, stop acting that way. I don't have a neighbor that could tie my tie like I did when I grew up.
Now, you talk about the cave.
And that was big facts. Like he said, a neighbor to tie his tie. You know what I mean? And that's just the effects of not having a man in the house to teach you how to tie a tie. And once again, going back to what I think a lot of people have spoken about is that not having a father in the household does cause some type of trauma in a child's life. Every single child's life, period. Your child could still grow up and be perfectly fine, a millionaire, billionaire, whatever, but they still have trauma because their father was not in their life. I mean, I could say either parent. If it's a single parent household and there's a parent missing, then there's trauma there for that child for not having that one parent there. Okay, because there's something missing. That's why, raising our kids as a family and as a village is so important.